What's up, ladies? I'm just sitting here messing with my microphone and my monitor, and I should have been doing that before I started recording. I could have Mandy edit this out, but I'm not going to because I believe in it being raw and real, so I don't even care. It's good. It's all good. Sounds good. My levels sound good. Hey, what's up, ladies? Welcome to another episode of my Friday episode of the Revitalized Womanhood podcast, my To the Core episode. And what the To the Core episode is, do any of you remember? If you're now just joining me for the first time, To the Core in the Revitalized Sisterhood, which is the private membership in the Revitalized Womanhood community, my core categories, my 4 core categories, the categories that I think are the most important parts of life and the things that if you are maintaining enough prioritizing, if you're prioritizing well enough in each category, you will have a happy and fulfilled life, right? So for us in the Revitalized Sisterhood, we use the core categories of body, beliefs, bonds, and biz. Biz is kind of a funny one. I always have to have kind of a side note for biz because I do speak a lot to stay-at-home moms, and for them, they're saying, biz, what does biz have to do with me? Well, guess what? It does, because the habits and the systems and the scheduling, prioritizing of your day and the choices that you make in your day are important to everybody, not just CEOs. They are important to everybody. And that means that as a stay-at-home mom, you should be prioritizing and doing all these things and running your home like you are the CEO of it, right? So that actually is a perfect segue into what I wanted to record this episode about. I have just gone to, not just because this will air a little bit later on, but I recently was in Austin, Texas for an amazing event with Sally Holder and the Brim. Her community is called the Brim, and she is a super cool lady. If you haven't yet, go back and listen to my podcast episode with Sally Holder. It was a really good one, really, really good one. She's got such amazing insight for not only business owners, entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, but also just women in general. It's the same thing as how I talk about stay-at-home moms running your home like a CEO. She had such great tips, and we got down to so many great tips in that episode about things like why you should not be hustling. The hustle is not a good thing. And what she means by that is wearing "I'm so busy" as a badge of honor, like we all do. Like running around with our heads cut off and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Always, right? If someone asks you how you're doing, it's never, hey, you know what? I am doing so well today. I am completely organized. My time management skills are next level. And right, it's usually, oh my gosh, I'm so good, but I'm so busy. I'm doing this and that and the other, and I've got to run here and I've got to do this, and the kids are doing this and my husband's doing that, and we've got to make sure our schedules all can be together at the same time, or else the world's going to implode and life as we know it won't continue, right? So that's Sally. My point of that is I came out of that retreat. First of all, it was so cool. Such a cool event. It was I really think every woman needs to start working at least one event, one retreat into their life every year. I think that should be a priority. So there you go, ladies. Find a reason to go to an event. They're starting to be so common. Get away, get out of your normal life, find one of these retreats, whether it's for a business retreat, whether it's for a sound and meditation retreat. I don't know, whatever serves you, whatever you feel like you absolutely just need. You know, I'm talk about the man with the spinning plates, right? Spinning plates on his feet and his knees and his nose and his hands, and which plate is starting to slow down is where you need to focus your attention, right? You need to spin that plate more. So what is that for you in form of a retreat, a women's retreat? You need to do it. Start prioritizing that so that once a year you can get away. The reason I say that is because before I went to my very first women's retreat, which was actually the Saint Makeup conference. It was the first conference they had. Is that what they call them? Do they call them conferences? I'm a Saint artist. So I don't even know. The Saint Convention. We'll call it the Saint Convention. So it was the first one they had after COVID. It was in San Diego. And it was so funny because I had just signed up to be a Saint artist. And then they had their convention opened up like 2 months later. So I was like, yep, I'm in. I'm the travel mama. So if I'm not saying yes to these kinds of events, like traveling for things, then I'm not very good as a travel mama, right? So I was in. I was like, yes, I just said yes. And what that did for me. Okay, what that did for me in regards to thinking this would be my community and finding out that no, this was not the community I was looking for. Great, good. That's not good. It's not bad. It's just what is. It happened. Great. But it was something that confirmed in my heart and my head that this was not the place for me, right? But I had to experience. So I said yes. I got some amazing relationships out of that event. I got some amazing coaching out of that event. I now follow Kendra Hall and I'm a lifelong fangirl of her. Hopefully we'll have her on the podcast one day because of that event, right? So things happened from that event and from me saying yes that set other things in motion that happened later on. And just saying yes, being curious, because sometimes you're like, if I would have, say, if Ryan Mickler would have come to me at that time when I was just going to the Saint Convention and said, would you start this women's community for me? I don't necessarily know that I would have been in the right place in my life to accept that or take that on or even feel like I wanted to. Do you know, I think I had more growth to do. I had more life to be lived before that happened. And that was kind of just the first step in this journey. And I really do attribute that to being that was my first step, was saying yes to that convention and being open and curious to what that looked like. The next step was acknowledging that that was not the community I was looking for. That was not the going forward what I was looking for. That was not a good, was not a bad. It was just what it was. And great, no big deal. So from that, I started being curious about maybe what was the community I was looking for? What was the growth that needed to happen in my life? What was I looking for more for purpose and impact and fulfillment? What did that mean? I didn't think anything was wrong in my life. I have a beautiful life. I have beautiful kids. I have an amazing husband who supports me, who has made it possible for me not to have to work. I mean, we are debt-free and we live a lifestyle that is exactly what we want to live, right? However, there was something in me that wanted more. And that's okay. It's okay to want more. It's okay to be grateful for what you have and still know that I have more to give. I have more to give. What does that look like? I don't know. Start experimenting. Be curious. Like volunteer in the community. Volunteer at the PTA. Volunteer to speak at a women's group event. I don't know what that looks like for you, but be curious and start opening yourself up to opportunities for these things if you're feeling that way, right? Speaking of, in Sally Holder, in that episode, that's what she talks about. She talks about that she had this enormous amount of guilt and shame that she would put on herself. Same with Kira. Kira, my episode with her, she said the same thing. She said she felt so much shame and blame and guilt for having this amazing life and wanting more from it, and feeling like, why am I not happy and satisfied with what I have? Why do I feel like I want more? That's okay. You're not a selfish BI for wanting more. It just means that you were born with the ability and the gifts to serve other people outside of just your amazing little family, right? You can do both. You don't have to pick one or the other. So the point of that being, I did not find my community in that, but from that point on, it was a trajectory now to finding what community looked like for me or finding what was right for me. And starting to read the books and be interested in the books that would help start to maybe mold me into the person that I was hoping to be, or you know what I mean? Because before, when Rick would read these books, he'd be like, "Oh, that book was so great." Like, he's read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and he's like, "That was an amazing book. You need to read this." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." He's read The Atomic Habits, and he's like, "You need to read this book. It's an amazing book." And I'm like, "Nah, not for me. I'm good." Right? I'm doing my thing, and that's fine. I was not in a place in my life that I was ready to be receptive to the information that would have brought to me. Maybe I would have, I don't know. Maybe if I would have started, I don't know. I was not ready for that. So after this retreat in Austin that I just went to, I sat at the airport. And if any of you saw on my Instagram, I actually did a Instagram post, and said, "Here's what I'm feeling right now in this moment. I've just come from this amazing event that was put on and done so well, and the amount of detail and care and luxury, I mean, the amount of effort that was put into this event was next level." Okay, I felt like I could have paid 3 times the amount and still come out ahead. You know what I mean? So it was amazing. So I'm not downplaying that at all. It was amazing. However, did I have a retreat hangover? Yes, I absolutely did. Did I feel exhausted and overwhelmed, and like the realities of everything in those 4 days, all the information that I just consumed was now hitting me, and I was having all the realizations of this needs to now become part of my community and my work and my business and my life? Yes, that was happening. So I did a post about that being, wow, I am burned out. And that's okay. All right. It's okay. It was a learning experience to know that maybe I don't need to be on all the time. I don't need to be giving all of my energy all the time in all the moments. Sally actually said it so perfectly when she got up on the stage and spoke to us. She said, "I actually walked like I was coming to the room to have coffee this morning with all the women. We have a coffee every morning and get a chit chat and before all the speakers begin." But she says, "I started walking into that room and I stopped myself and thought, yeah, I'm about to have to go on stage and be my best, brightest, most energetic self. I'm going to take a step back and go do some meditating or go for a walk, go do something that's going to pour into me and my soul and my good, pour into me before I give back to these women." And guess what? Nobody noticed. Nobody cared that she wasn't at the coffee mixer. Nobody cared that she would, right? No one made this big, "Oh, I can't believe Sally wasn't here." No. And then she got on stage and she presented so well and it was amazing. And we got to hear how much energy she got to give to us because she didn't just give it out for nothing, having coffee and making small talk, right? Does that make sense? So what I'm saying through all of this, and hopefully this plane will land, is I had this realization, this aha moment of, I'm done giving my energy to people who aren't willing to give the same amount of energy to me or themselves, right? I expect a certain amount of energy on myself to put on myself, and then I expect a certain amount of energy that I have to give to other people. I might be next level. I understand that. I am next level. That is me. That's who I am. I'm a lot. And that is one of my gifts that I was born with, to be a lot, to be able to be on for longer amounts of time than other people maybe, or to be a hype girl for a lot of women in a community. That is one of my gifts, and I love it and I nurture it, and I'm finding it out so much doing this. However, this community is not for everybody, and that's okay, right? I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. I would get so upset when I would have members come into the community and I would give them all of my everything and so much love and care for them so much. And then they would leave. And I'm like, right? Like, dang it. That's a hurt, right? Because I'm putting into someone into a relationship that I think I'm getting back the same, and I'm not, right? And when I finally had that aha moment of, I can't continue to put my energy all the way into someone that isn't willing to put that much energy into themselves. And I was like, wow, the clarity it was probably obvious for so many other people, but the clarity, when you have those moments that it just clicks, your brain, I talk about it, how your brain just kind of clicks into place all of a sudden. Someone could say something over and over and over and over, and then someone says it a little differently, and you're like, aha, right? And that happened to me. So that moment, this Revitalized Sisterhood, the private community of the Revitalized Womanhood, my private community of the Revitalized Sisterhood, is not for everyone. I've been sitting here racking my brain about, and I thought I was niched down. Do you say niche or niched? Niche. Someone write in and tell me how to say that. Anyway, I thought I was niche down. That's going to make me crazy to not know how to say that word. Anyway, I thought I had narrowed it down. I thought I was branded to the right people. However, I wasn't. I was trying to be inclusive to all women, right? I mean, obviously this community is conservative. It is Christian. It is, right? So obviously I'm already creating my own little box of what is expected of the women who are in this community. You kind of have an idea before you come. But it's still, in those guidelines, I was trying to be inclusive, that this is a community for everyone. It is not. I'm finding that out, and it finally clicked that this community is for women that are willing and able to give the same amount of energy to the community and to themselves that myself and my other members who are doing the same thing are as well. Let me explain. There is a term that, I don't know that it's so much a term, but it's coaching is not counseling, right? So when you get into a community like this, like mine, like the Order of Man, like women's coaching, women's group coaching that Melanie Studley has, like my good friend Randa has her own, when you get into a community like these, this is coaching, not counseling. Like you have therapists and counselors for counseling. Sorry, I'm trying to find this specific page that I want to read from in this book. So I'm going to do that while I'm trying to talk to you. And the way that that's explained to me is how it makes sense to me is counseling is, if you basically look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have the 5 levels of the pyramid, right? The bottom 2 are foundational for coaching. You have to have already basically cemented in your foundation in. So the bottom 2 say physiological and safety. So if those 2 needs have not been satisfied and met and are not being fulfilled, you know what I mean? If you can't get past the fact that you've had trauma, if you can't get past the fact that you've had abuse, if you can't get past, and even if you're trying to get past it, I'm not saying that this is an intentional thing. I think that this is just something that there's the reason why you cannot be coached if you need counseling, right? There's a bridge that needs to be the bridge that needs to be gapped, a gap that needs to be bridged. That's awesome. I know words. Anyway, so the bottom 2 tiers of the pyramid are safety and physiological. So if there are actual physical chemicals that are imbalanced, or, abuse, or big T's, right, that you cannot get past on your own, you absolutely should be seeking out counseling, therapy, right? These are things that these people are trained professionals. They're trained to do this. The next 3 steps in the pyramid are belonging to community, right? We can coach you on being part of a community. Esteem, you can be coached on better self-esteem, better self-confidence, tips, tricks, self-love. You can be coached on these things. This is coaching, where coaching is great. Identity. This is where coaching is great. But that's kind of the difference between coaching versus counseling. And I do feel like there are different levels, just like this, there are different levels of communities that certain people are more, what's the word I'm trying to say? That's more appropriate for these people, right? So my friend Randa's community, oh my goodness, all about self-love, self-worth, loving yourself, doing that foundational work in that I think is absolutely necessary before you move on to goals and accountability and expecting a lot more of yourself in terms of habit tracking, habit stacking, right? These things are a little more intense. So if you have not yet leveled to that, and not that it's a level, okay, am I explaining this well? Not that it's a level of you have to get past here to get past here to get past here, but there is a place so before I started this community, right? Like I was saying before, that Rick would say, read these books. And I'd say, nah, I'm good. Or, I'm like, I'm good where I am. I'm absolutely happy. I had to make that decision. I had to make that connection, that correlation between something's missing in my life and what I'm looking for, and why I'm not completely, totally, honestly, if I'm being honest with myself, completely fulfilled because something's missing. That was when the light switch came on. That's when these women that I love and adore in my community, when I get to talk to them in our one-on-ones, this one, where did I write hers? Of course, it's going to be in a different book. But she said it beautifully. And she said, I can't keep waiting. Finally, she started listening to my podcast last November, December. So, a few months ago. And she said, finally, what clicked for me to join the sisterhood was I realized I can't keep waiting for life to happen to me. I need to create the life that I want. Right? Like it just clicked when she said it. I was like, yes, that's exactly right. Like normally I'm sitting there saying, Rick, I don't need to read self-help books. I don't need to read business books. I don't need to better myself in that way. I'm great. Like I am amazing. As I am happy. But then life started getting ahead of me. And I think probably what really put me down and out was not COVID, but it was a C-section. It was an emergency C-section. And all of a sudden my body was not my own. All of a sudden my mind could not control my body the way that I knew that it should. Like my body wasn't responding. My mind wasn't responding. Nothing in me was the same person. I was not me. And that was where it started, I believe. Now that I just barely thought of that, that's where my downward trajectory started, was thinking that I was still okay, thinking that I was still this same person that would get up and go to the gym every day, that I would get out of bed and dress my baby in a cute outfit and go for a walk in the stroller to try to lose the baby weight. But really I was this person who had postpartum depression and would not get out of my bed and did not want to hang out with my husband or my boys. I didn't want to do anything. My bed became this island and it was me and this little baby boy. And I'm like, no, all I want to do, the only thing I have in my mind, in my bandwidth to be able to do is sit and nurse this baby and sleep. That's all I can do. This is my island and don't make me get out of this, right? Luckily, my husband is amazing and he kept everything going. He probably, I don't know that he even realized that that's what it was, that what was happening. And then finally one day I said, I have got to get out of here. If I don't, I'm going to become one of those people that never leaves this room. And I'm going to have fear, crippling fear. Cause I was like, I can't take this baby. I've got 2 kids already. Like I've done this before. I know how to get a stroller out of a car. I know how to put a car seat in a stroller. I know how to go to the store. Like these are not hard task, but for some reason I was trapped in my own brain. I was trapped in my own body. I could not get out of my own way. And so at that time, if I would have joined the sisterhood at that time in my life, forget about it. I would have been feeling so much shame and blame and guilt and inadequacies, like that I'm failing as a wife, I'm failing as a mother, and that's not it at all. That's not it at all. That's not what anybody's saying, and that's the last thing anybody wants for that message to go across to any woman, because they're probably doing an amazing job. Even at their lowest, they're probably still doing an amazing job. But that was it for me. So when I finally decided to get up and go, and it was hard, it wasn't easy. I put on whatever clothes I could manage, right? I was in so much pain. I was so scared about getting this heavy stroller in and out of my car with my C-section, no core muscles anymore that I had just spent my entire life working on to make nice, and get this tiny little infant that I didn't even think they should have sent me home from the hospital with. I had 5 days. You know, normally after a vaginal delivery, you're like in and out, right? 24 hours later, you're gone. I took the whole entire 5 days after that C-section. Those nurses were probably like, so you ready to leave now today, Gina? And I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm going to order me some more lunch. I'm going to go order me some dinner. I'm going to get me some ice cream. Like, I'm not leaving here. I don't believe they should have sent me home with this baby. That's how I felt. And so for me, that was a turning point for me. And then it was one step at a time, one day at a time. I mean, I had to start flexing those muscles again and reworking out these muscles literally and metaphorically that I no longer had. I no longer had these muscles. I was a completely different person. I was a completely different person. I hate that everybody's like, no, you're still you. No, I wasn't. I was trapped. The old me was either gone or trapped, and I had no way to find her because the body that I once knew did not work the same way. The mind that I once knew was not working the same way, right? So I had to relearn. I had to relearn from muscle memory what it was that I used to do. And I started doing those things. So again, if I would have found the Revitalized Sisterhood, or if Rick would have said, you need to join this community, even if he was like, I'm a little nervous for you, I'm scared for you, I think you need to join this community, it wouldn't have been a good time. And I would have quit. I would have either felt horrible shame, or I would have just been like, nah, this is for the birds. No, thank you. So what I'm saying is, and I hope I'm saying it well enough, is that this community is not for everybody. I hope in my heart of hearts that you find the community that is right for you, that does offer you the support that you need in the time in your life that you need it, right? Or offers the wisdom or the guidance or the care, whatever it is. I hope you find that community, because I will never say that community is not important. I think community is absolutely key to our not only survival, but ability to be a well-rounded society, right? I think when we start to isolate is when the scary things happen, and when the scary thoughts happen, and when the scary, I think we all know what I'm talking about, because COVID was not fun, and it was scary, and it brought out some scary things. So you will never hear me say that community is not important, but this community is not for everyone. I'm not saying that you're not willing to give the energy. I think maybe sometimes you're not able to, right? I was not able to give that energy to anybody. I needed all that energy for myself and that baby just to get us through each day, just to get me out of pajamas, just to get me out of bed some days. I really, really loved my bed. It became an island. When we start traveling again long term, I really feel like I will miss that bed, because it has been such a important place for me and this baby, who is now 2.5. So I am not the same person. I've had to recreate who I am. And a lot of that was because I said yes. I got myself out of bed, and luckily was to the point that I was able able-bodied enough to say yes to going to that Saint convention. So, yeah. That's that, folks. That's that. I really thank you. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. And I really hope that landed exactly where it needed to land for those women, that where it needed to land. And if you have not yet signed up for my newsletter, please do so. Go to revitalizedwomanhood.com, and there's a link there for not only the 4 weeks to a fresh start, which is a free email series about goal setting. You know, what's your vision? Here's how you make goals. Here's how you create tasks and objectives to go along with those goals, right? It's baby steps. And also sign up for my newsletter, just my ramblings and my thoughts, a lot like this, my Friday episodes. And you'll get to be the first to find out about all the amazing things going on here inside the Revitalized Womanhood community, and I love it. So appreciate it. Thank you so much. Go sign up. And if you have not yet, please, 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 the least you can do, rate and review this podcast. It does huge things to getting my message out and getting me moved up the list of podcasts so that this message can be spread to all the women that need to hear it. I would really appreciate that. Thanks, ladies. We'll see you next week.